Psychotechnology
Psychotechnology
Live.
Live. Woo!
Welcome to Psychotechnology Live. We have a very special episode this week. The thing we're going to do this week is what the title says. We're going to be reacting to Dr. K's interview with Pokimane. I don't know how to pronounce the name. And so she's a very famous streamer, and Dr. K runs a YouTube channel called Healthy Gamer GG, which is an awesome channel that you guys should check out. And this guy, I think, is a psychotechnologist, even though he doesn't necessarily identify as such. But he does do this stuff. He does it online, and he does it in full view. And so this is like we're reviewing his stuff and seeing what it's like. Spoiler though, I do really like him and his stuff. So there's maybe perhaps a slight bias here, but I think we'll break down and see why I like him. So I've seen this or like half of this before, and Elliot, this is his first time watching it.
So I know the guy. I've seen some of his stuff before, and I've been pleasantly surprised by him. But I do not know what this particular episode is like.
Yeah, he's real. Like he's got like a real practice that he does, and he lives by it, I think. As far as I can tell. And I'm very, very impressed by him. Also, he's a psychologist, psychiatrist, I think.
Psychiatrist?
Psychiatrist? I don't know. Whatever. He's one of the.
I feel like I should.
What?
Yeah, I believe he's a qualified professional in whichever.
But this isn't therapy what he's doing, because you can't do therapy life like this, but it kind of is.
Oh, you totally can. It's just people have to.
No, I don't think they're allowed to.
Oh, really?
Well, especially because she lives in Quebec, right? I think.
She lives in LA.
She lives in LA. So, but then that means, does he also live in LA? I don't know. There's all these like rules for that.
Yeah, international mess.
Yeah, we're not therapists.
Well, it's also if you are paying for if you pay for a service, it would have to go differently than if you don't pay for it. So if he's just talking to people unpaid, then as in the client doesn't pay him, then would be going differently. Obviously, therapy sort of has more like a therapeutic contract with it. So
he's pretty much does therapy here, but it's like I guess it would be like not therapy TM. I don't really know, but anyway, let's break it down. We're just going to kind of mostly look at the first 2 minutes, because I think he pulls some pretty incredible moves, and
all right,
made me see that he was legit.
So what do I call?
Oh, so before this there was like technical.
Yeah, the screen.
Huh?
You probably want to share your screen.
Oh. Yeah.
Here we go. And
okay, so it starts out with
technical problems aside. Let us begin. I don't know what we're. So first of all, what do I call you? What do you go by?
I guess a lot of people call me Pokey.
Okay.
If you wanted to be very personal and call me by my name, it's Iman.
Iman. Okay.
But Pokey's fine as well.
What do you prefer?
I guess I've always kind of felt like Pokey is fine for whatever situation, but if someone's going to try to be very personal with me, like me the person, then I guess Iman makes more sense.
Okay, so then what would you prefer I do? Do you want me to be personal?
Do you want to be personal?
I think I like talking with people instead of characters in general.
That makes sense. Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm leaning towards Iman, but at the same time, I don't know if you want to be Iman today or you want to be Pokey today.
I think I should be Iman. I feel like it only makes sense.
Both of us are really quiet. I'm sorry.
Okay, so what did you see?
Oh, there's so much tension there. Let me start with hit that button. Yeah, there was a real dance there. I'm surprised he said I think, actually, in when he responded to her. But there's I don't think we talked on Psychotech about the four fields of conversation, but the like talking nice territory. So he would like start with the like, what do you want to be called? And then she said her name, and then he said, okay, but what do you want to be called? And then she didn't answer. She sort of said, well, people call me this and other people call me this, which was, he's mindful enough to know when the question he asked didn't get answered. Like, congratulations, well done. He said, what do you want me to call you? And she didn't answer. And so she's like, and then instead of answering in the end, she said, well, what do you want to call me? Which is herself skillfully deflecting. And then instead of, interestingly, I'm surprised he didn't go for like himself. He went, I think that I want this. I think I want that. He didn't actually like narrow down and be like, I want this, which is unusual. And I wonder why he did that. And maybe there's a good reason, but
so what I saw was him negotiating her like actual presence and like her beat like her like the person and like that
as opposed to the image of the character.
Yeah, but like he could have just like, because like that's to like, I think this is generally what he's doing, because like he's on the enlightenment path and all that stuff. I'm pretty sure. I haven't heard him say that, but I think it's obvious that he is. And so like you're always wanting to be in what's real, what's personal, what actually exists, like where are the people at. And so like he's negotiating that, but he could have just said, no, I want to talk. This is a therapy session. Like, I'm a therapist. We're doing this thing and you have to be here. I'm not talking to some fucking character or whatever. But that would have like put her on guard. Like that wouldn't have been a good, that wouldn't have been skillful if he had done that. The way he did it here, I thought was like crazy skillful. Like he like negotiated that out of her where she's like looking to fall into these like scripts. And then he's not responding with the next piece of the script. He's just he keeps responding with like being present.
All right, let's see what happens next. You want to share screen again? And
yeah.
I wonder how he continues this negotiation thing.
Can you say that again?
Yeah, so they're having like.
I think it makes sense to be Iman.
Okay.
Look at that.
So
like, I think it makes sense to be me.
Yeah, so there's two things. One is the I think, which I think she grabbed from him and she's repeated it. And then there's a question of like, how does this person make their meaning in this moment? And she used the phrase, it makes sense too. And so for some reason, the way that she wants to live in this moment is the sense-making way. She's not like living by, it's important to me that you call me by my name, or I like being called by this thing. She's living by it makes sense too.
I think to me, the thing that was salient was not like the thinking, but the she's doing that like timid thing, where because she doesn't want to come out and say, no, I'm a mom and I want to do this, and like right. It's not like solid inside her. She's like kind of like shyly or cautiously coming into this new setting where she's going to be vulnerable on screen with a therapist.
Right. Well, I think there's more here. There's because at this point, it's the question is, how does she navigate her reality, right? And so a moment ago, she was like, people call me this thing, and that's how she navigates by what people call her. And then she said to him, what do you want to do?
Right.
So that's another way to navigate.
I don't think it was deflecting. Yeah, I think there was a negotiation happening.
Right, but wait. So there was a navigating by, what do you want to call me? Right. And then he gave some ideas. And then now she's like, it makes sense to, right? So now we're navigating by what it makes sense to do. And I suspect we're going to change again until we get to the person.
I think the sensing is I think the sensing was just like, I think what she was really saying was like, I'm okay with this. Not
there's some of that too.
Not like, I don't think she was doing a million calculations and then being like, okay, this is the thing that makes sense. I think she was like, this thing is scary and I want to do it, but I don't want to like overextend, or I don't want to be too.
So Yeah, I didn't feel like she was being logical in her making sense of using logic, but you know, she didn't say it feels right to. She didn't say I would feel most comfortable.
Right,
Blah,
right. Because
blah,
I think
blah. She said,
I
"It
think
makes
she's
sense
not.
too."
I don't think it's the sense. I don't think it's the sense. I think it's the, like, if you look at the way, like, let's just go back.
Hit share screen again. Hit share screen again, and we can watch it again.
Then let's talk to Iman. So can you tell me a little bit? Is there something in particular that you wanted to talk about? Then let's talk to Iman. Okay. So
There we go.
I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
I think it makes sense to be Iman.
Okay. So then let's talk to Iman. So can you tell me a little bit?
See, look at her face. She's doing the, like,
The defensive, like, fresh hair back thing.
yeah, like I think she's like, I want to say scared, but in a good way.
Well, confronted into being present, maybe, or something.
Yeah, like it's like excited, like from her, the way I'm imagining her is like she's nervous but excited at the same time. And she's like, yeah, like I like to do this, but like also like not wanting to overbear. Like this is like a thing I've noticed that women tend to do a lot, or also men, but more women, where they're afraid of like taking up space. Like here I'm being like loud, boisterous, and move my hands. Like this space is mine. Like this whole screen here is mine. I get to do whatever I want with it. And like her, she's like moving more closed up. Which, yeah, like that makes me think like she's coming into this a little bit nervous. Which is fine. Like
it wouldn't be. He's a psychologist.
Yeah, there's no judgment here. I'm just,
What is he?
Yeah, she's actually really, really brave in this situation. I'm actually impressed with her. The spoilers, sorry.
Is there something in particular that you wanted to talk about today, or something that we can help you with? And I say we because Twitch chat is actually pretty good
No.
at this by now.
Oh, that's really cute. I think you have a lovely community, and you do a really good job of moderating them, I think, from what I've seen at least. I don't think there's really anything in particular, because I feel like all my issues are very convoluted.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's.
So he's.
That's what we're here for.
Sorry. So he's doing a you move, right? Where he's like, what's going on with you, right? Like instead of being like, hey, let's talk about this or explore this, or this is what I'm in today. It's like very trying to like blank slate this, or get some of that Rorschach kind of situation where like letting people project onto you what's going on so that you can see what kind of stuff that they're projecting. Yeah. And like just like
I would also say that like she very neatly immediately commented on him and his community. Like
and then
she doesn't want to, she wants to be in his stuff. Like, let's talk about you and your community, rather than like, oh, my issues are like complicated and convoluted, but you about. So my hunch, having not seen anything further, would be that the shape of her issues are an inability to introspect, and an inability to feel safe introspecting, and an inability to know herself, because she's known herself by what other people want to call her, by this is what people call me, what do you want to call me? Like it makes sense too. She's not actually taking her own self-navigatory path through life. She's navigating by other people witnessing. I have no idea who she is or like what's going to happen next.
Yeah, this is your first time seeing it. I can't make predictions. I've already seen this, but I love that you're doing that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Anyway, but obviously at the same time, he has to be polite. He probably would have picked up on some of that, but he has to be polite about it, because you can't just be like, I can see your stuff. I can see it on the surface. It's already clear with how you answered the first, but you can't do that.
Yeah. because that's the thing is that like this is the thing he does really well. Like I'm like watching him and I'm like I know that he knows like a whole shit ton of what's going on, and like he doesn't say it or like the way he says it or like the way he does it is like he's very careful about his moves. And he like makes like one move at a time, and he makes very very good moves.
Right.
I think I do think he makes a weird move later, but yeah.
And
So
kind
let's.
of mixed in together.
That's what we're here for. So I think that's actually what we do. What I try to do is just untangle things for people, because I think most people are pretty good at problem solving. They're intelligent, they're capable, and it's really ignorance and not understanding that tends to be the problem for most people. So when you say your issues, like that's like a heavy.
That to me was a little bit of a faux pas, because he's like, which at least the way I see it is like you can't say most people's problem is ignorance, and what we're gonna like because he's pretty much calling her ignorant, and like I don't think she's offended by it, but it's like to me that's like a trigger word. I think that word triggers people.
Yeah, well, she did already say that her problems are convoluted, and that's her difficulty. So for him to say, all right, let's deal with convoluted, he's going in the right direction.
Yeah, no, he definitely is. He definitely is. It was just like a minor thing. Like I would have said something like, "Oh yeah, like things are complex, and you know, having a second brain to figure it out is like twice the processing power."
I also want to point out the posture change. She just changed how she was sitting, which is curious. And in general, if someone is shifting around, they either need to go to the bathroom or they're somehow uncomfortable. But I don't actually know, because we'll see in a bit.
Yeah, the problem is also she is a streamer, so she does have like a lot of experience being on camera and things like that. So some of the stuff that she does, I think, is because that's
what gets
like that's what makes sense from the Twitch perspective.
They're like the hair
like,
flick, right? They're like, oh, look at me, I have a hair flick.
I don't know. That's like
that's a bit too lame. All right.
Like I think, but the community one that she was talking about, like I think this is like because you gotta like I think acknowledge the community. Like it's not just about the streamer, it's also about the community. And so I think there probably is some sort of it's like a Twitch handshake or something where they do these things. That'd be my guess.
Word, like what do you mean by issues?
She's put her leg in front of her.
For starters, do you know how I can prevent myself from crying during this?
Absolutely. Maybe. Actually, hold on.
Okay.
Let me start with this. What's wrong with crying?
How cool is that?
What? Absolutely maybe let me start with this, or what?
Yeah, like he went into the thing. I think he just kind of like fell in where she's like, do you know how much, like she does the thing, right? Like with the expressive and the emoting and like the genuine feeling, and like that pulls him in. And then he's like, wait, I don't want to be in this frame. So he walks himself back until he gets to like the what's wrong with crying, which is a much better frame.
Yeah, it's hard because I don't know where they're going, either of them. And so I think predict
at this
much.
point they don't know where they're going. Right. And that's the point. Like this is somewhat of a liminal space, because he doesn't know what's going to happen. She doesn't know what's going to happen. We are chomping it up. So like you're not getting the flow exactly. But like there is like, and then he does have to think, but like we could just pause. You know, we got hindsight, but
I've just been crying a lot.
Okay, so but what's wrong with that? Where did you get the idea that you're not allowed to cry, or that crying is bad?
I guess just in moments where it feels like it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Like now.
Okay, so let's just pause for a second. What are you feeling?
check-ins.
There was actually a really funny picture or a meme on the subreddit, I think, like, Make Me Motivated. If anyone either was watching my stream or has seen it, or it's like, therapist asks you to open up, and then it's like this glass panel, and inside there's a bunch of dishes that are like so close to falling out, and you're like, I can't, and they're like, why? And then it's just a picture of that
Mm.
panel.
But it sounds like that's not what you're experiencing. It sounds like it's the opposite, right? That the dishes, your panel is so high and the dishes are starting to spill over the top.
Yeah, I guess.
What are you feeling right?
Yeah. So did you get that with the dishes thing?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay, I've never actually seen this one before.
Ah.
So it's
That picture of the glass cabinet with the dishes leaning on the glass cabinet.
yeah,
And it's
yeah, and all the dishes are
like
like
Schrodinger's dishes that
Yeah.
like you can't before it's opened, they're both broken and not broken at the same time.
yeah. So all the dishes are leaning on the door. So if you open the door, they're all gonna fall out. So they're all not broken, but they're functionally like everything's just gonna. It's like if you open up, you're gonna start. Everything's just gonna spill out. And
Right. So I think there's something more going on in this moment. And my hunch about why she's crying is that Dr. K has like a good presence to him, and he is paying attention to her. And even the navigating about like, what do I call you, is a process of getting down to, I want to talk to you rather than your mask, rather than your face. And I think that that intensity can sometimes make people do things like cry when they're actually witnessed, when they're actually seen, even without her really noticing that's why she's crying. Like she said, I don't know why I'm crying.
Yeah, because like no one's putting up these barriers, so it's just kind of like he's like negotiated to talk to her, and then he hasn't put up any barriers, and so now she's just open. So now the things are like kind of spilling up, and this is 4 minutes in. Like this is why I find this guy so impressive. Like he got all the way here. Like I think she has a lot to do with like she was really open to it and like willing to go there. Like she is a good client for sure.
She's well, she could have stayed at her mask, at her surface, at her name.
Yeah, and I think like he likes to do the thing where he gives credit to the clients, and like that is 100% correct. Like she is being vulnerable, willing to do these things.
Yes.
But like this skillful navigation, I guess this co-creation of this experience is crazy.
Right.
Like it's just really good.
So in this moment, if I was him, I would take her in the direction of, let's look at this emotion. Let's get the hang of what is it? What is crying? What is sadness? What is that thing? What does it feel like? Let's get to know it. So I'm curious if that's where he goes.
So well, he does this already with the check-in, like because she's crying, right? So, but then she's talking about crying and the cabinets and this and that, and he's like, okay, like forget all that. Like what's like he didn't say what's crying like, but he said what's happening now, so she can orient to the
thing that I find funny with that as well is that he said, what are you feeling now, or something very close to that, and she didn't name a feeling. She went, I feel like this metaphor of this picture of the dishes, right? And so there's some way in which her experience is mediated by useful metaphors, but she didn't quite touch the feeling for herself.
Right.
And if I were him, I would be like, okay, let's get closer to the feeling. Or let's get closer to it.
That's what the check-in does, right? When he's saying, or what's it like in this moment or something, or whatever he said, right? Where like, what does it feel like? Where she's now able to touch the crying, but not necessarily the same time as she's talking about the crying and not necessarily touching it at the same time, but he is like having her touch it, because I think that is the more important thing.
Yeah.
Right now, do you know?
Let me go back. The controls are all weird.
Yeah, I guess.
What are you feeling right now? Do you know?
I guess a nervousness.
Okay.
And I don't know why, especially for the last like.
Right. So he does it again.
Sorry?
So he asked her what she's feeling again, because we didn't. Like, what is the feeling behind dishes falling out of cupboard? I would have said something like, "Oh, well, nervous," and like that's what she ended up saying, nervous.
Yeah, I think she sidestepped. I think the feeling of the dishes falling out is not is not the nervous, like there's like a broader story going on, but she's kind of moving into that nervousness to like.
Right. Well, there's this problem when you work with people that the phenomena keeps changing, right? So a moment ago, she was feeling like the therapist asked her stuff, and then she had this metaphor, and now she's introspecting as to how she felt about the metaphor. Like she's already, like the emotion has moved, the feeling has moved. We're all the way over here at I'm nervous in response to, like the phenomena is now overwhelm and nervous towards overwhelm. Whereas before it was like, oh, I've just realized the dishes falling out of the cupboard. And then before that, it was like, oh, I'm being actually paid attention to. That's making me cry. Like we've moved very quickly.
Yeah. I think there's something deeper that's not moving, that they're not, like it is only 4 minutes in.
We'll see in a few minutes, right?
2 weeks, I feel like just like very sensitive and like on the verge of crying very often, and I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the crying is a bad crying? Let's start there. So
I mean, I'm not the kind of person that is of the opinion that like crying is a bad thing. I often feel like it's really good and like cathartic or like therapeutic, and it kind of like allows you to let your emotions out, but it almost feels like I can never get to that point where they're all out. Either that or like they're just like continuously regenerating.
yeah, oh man, that sounds rough.
Yeah, she's not getting to the root of it. So she's getting these cathartic releases, but it's
never got into the root, of course.
Huh?
She's never gotten into, well, she doesn't seem to have gotten to the root, or doesn't feel like she has anyway.
Well, I think what she's saying is that she's having trouble getting to the root cause.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing from you is that you're not opposed to feeling feelings. It's just it seems like there's a never-ending well of like negative feelings. And even if you let yourself cry, like you can cry for a while, but then like at some point the crying's supposed to like make you feel better and you're supposed to stop, right? Like it's not just like
or at least that's what I've experienced.
Yeah, it's like what the fuck? Like,
it's just not like that.
I was told at some point that this would get better.
Yeah.
And everyone says that once you let it out, then it's out, but you're like,
but then it's back like 2 hours later.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from you is that you don't have a bucket that's full of water. You have a faucet.
Yeah.
That sounds rough. You see her face when he said that? And she's like, yeah, like he hit, like he like put words to the experience that she was experiencing.
So I'm like, I don't like what he's doing here.
Okay.
So he used a very specific phrase. He used the phrase, so what you're saying is ... and then like said something, right? And then he did it twice in a row. And there's this real tricky balance between knowing understanding and showing understanding. So he knows what she's saying, right? But he is feeling the need to overtly show it, I think for the audience, not even for her.
You think it's a little performative?
Right. He's not just like, oh, I know what that's like. He's like, extra, so what you're saying is, and the amazing thing about the phrase, so what you're saying is, you can kind of put anything after that phrase. So what you're saying is you don't like me. So what you're saying is you want me to like rob the bank. Like,
okay, yeah. So that phrasing is risky, but it's not. It's risky because if you say it, the other person gets to decide if you're right or not. Those are the rules.
Well, it's also a leading statement. So often people are just like, yeah.
It's like, it depends on how you do it.
I also, if anyone ever says the phrase, so what you're saying to me, I will probably say no and then say it very differently.
Okay, so for you, that's like a trigger.
Right. There's definitely, I definitely have a trigger there. That is, I said it how I said it. Your interpretation is not what I was saying, unless you're repeating my words exactly or very, very close.
Uh-huh.
You don't get to shift what I was saying. I know what I was saying.
Interesting.
And there's like,
For me, I'm on guard when people do that, but if they do a good job, then I'm actually pleased.
I also often translate a question. So if someone asks me a leading question, I will repeat the question in the like, do I want to do this? Sort of like softer version. So
you'll take the thing from the outside. You'll take the outside stimulus.
If the example was something like, would we all like to go to the park? The next thing I will say will be like something along the lines of, do I want to go to the park? Like I will translate from that question to the personal question, and then I will answer the personal question. I won't answer the we question. I won't go with the we. I will answer the I question. Unless I'm already on their side, in which case it doesn't really matter.
Uh-huh.
It's not just the we space, it's the assumed leading question. Like sometimes it's like if someone were to use the phrase something like rationalists all like to make graphs in my presence, right? I might be like, wait, do I like to make graphs? Yes, well, I like to make graphs, but
Oh, that's such a rationalist thing. Like there exists this category of things, and all these things are a certain way, and you're like, well, there's a thing that exists within this category that doesn't match that description, therefore your statement is incorrect. Like this is very logical.
Right. But there's a reason. There's a reason to divide it, because like in the example, rationalists like to make graphs. That's fine. But in less central object category, like let me see if I can find one. Rationalists are all into cryonics, right?
You're right.
That's like I'm actually on the boundary of, it's a bit more complicated there. I might be, but I might not be. I'd rather life extension than cryonics. I don't know if I need to live forever. I'd rather the genes pass on complex. I don't know. I'll get to that decision when I get closer to it. Like I have a very nuanced opinion there, and so you can't just summarize me, especially if you were trying to summarize me with the word rationalist or like. Anyway.
Yeah, you don't like being put into boxes or identities and stuff, though.
No, I don't.
I'm not sure. Yeah,
maybe that's something I gotta look at.
You should listen to this good episode of
my future
Psychotechnology Live, where they talk about ego.
All about identities. Yeah.
It's a great show. Everyone should check it out.
Yeah. All right, you want to share screen again and keep going, or?
Yeah, but I think for me, like the rules are, you're allowed to say somebody else is saying this to their face, but they get to call you, like that's a risky move, because if you're wrong, they get to say that you're wrong and you're putting words in their mouth and you're offensive, and like lots of bad social shit if you're wrong. But if you're right, it's good vibes. You know what I mean?
You really get me, Daniel. Wow. I feel
yeah, that's like real intimacy when you can say something that someone else is feeling better than they can, like then you know them better than they know themselves.
Mm-hmm.
People love that. I love that.
I guess maybe. I don't really know why, because I haven't really experienced this before, and that's why I'm like, I guess that's like my first question right off the bat, and I thought like, oh, this will be fine. Maybe I will tear up at some point. So I don't know why. Like I literally just say hello and I feel like crying.
Yeah. So can I think for a second?
Look at that move. Look at that fucking move. He's like, I gotta say the next thing, and then he's like, but I don't know what the next thing is.
No, I think there's something else going on. My hunch is he needs to give her emotions some space.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that, while also himself not saying anything and also her not saying anything, is to say, can I think for a second? And so to me, it looks like he pulled this can I think for a second move so that he can create empty space in the conversation to allow the thing to like come up and then settle.
Yeah, I don't think he noticed Like I think he was using it to buy himself time because he didn't know what the next move was. But yeah, I do think the next move was silence or like space, essentially. So like I would have just moved into space, but that does, I think, like I would have just moved into space. Like I wouldn't have said anything and just like let what's happening happen. But this is like, it's a way of keeping that structure still. I don't know.
He's
It's like
the one in
it's
charge.
like a
He's
different
laying
style.
the structure down. He's the one laying the structure down.
Yeah, he does like his structure, like you'll see later. But yeah, I think different styles, but
All right, let's see where it goes.
still valid move for sure.
Can I think for a moment?
Yeah, but he's like, look, he's like actually thinking, like he's not like looking at her like.
Okay, so my first thought.
Actually, can you think for like another second?
See, and if you would have had the space,
See, this is
I was gonna get some tissues. I was not prepared.
yeah. So she like stuff is happening, so that would have like emerged naturally, and that could have been.
well, I think that was a deliberate move by him to give her enough space to go get the tissues or whatever, or to let her emotions whatever, and then she realized she needed the tissue. She's gone and got it. Like
yeah.
he didn't actually do any thinking in that moment. Like, have you ever seen someone like their gears turning in their mind? Like he didn't do any of that. He just kind
Yes,
of
he did.
waited.
100% he did.
There were no gears turning. He was just waiting.
Yeah,
He was
I'm
like, I
gonna
need to pause for this moment.
no, I think
Go
he was
back.
like, go back.
Go back
Another-
a bit. 10 seconds.
Okay, so my first thought.
So see, he looks up.
And I feel like crying.
There's a little bit of gears turning.
Yeah. So can I think for a second?
See, he did the like looking around thing, and then he realized he was looking around, so he did can I think? And now look at his eyes. Like he's looking up at things. What is he? He's looking up.
I don't think he is. I think his attention's on his spine. He's put his visual field that way, but he hasn't actually looked over there.
I think for a second.
He's blinking. That's thinking.
Yeah, maybe there's a little.
First thought.
And look, okay, my first thought, right? Like he's not feeling what's happening because there would have been it would have been less edge. It would have been smoother. He's actually thinking about something.
I don't know. This is hard. It's so disconnected that I can't see the flow as easily because we're
Yeah.
doing.
Do you want to? Do you want to go back and?
No, it's all right. Just keep going. Go forward.
Yeah, it is. This is a choppy experience for everyone. That's not me.
Actually, can you think for like another second?
Sure.
I'm just gonna get some tissues. I was not prepared.
See, now he's relaxing. He's taking his time and a little bit more and like thinking and like contemplating, like because he feels like he has to do something, but he doesn't actually. Like he's actually doing amazingly well. He doesn't even have to think. Like just
I think he's
whatever happens, he'll be fine.
what's he doing here? I think he's looking at the game plan of like work through emotions, talk about this. Like there's not much. He's not doing a great deal of work right now. He's just.
I think he's orienting.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. How do you pronounce
What?
your name again?
Iman.
Iman, do you feel lonely?
Let
me rephrase. Actually, do you feel alone?
See, he comes out of the gate with a move. That you can only do that if you were thinking.
Right. So here's my impression of him. He picked up all these feelings so far. Like obviously she's crying. Obviously he's paying attention. Like why would she be crying if he's paying a bunch of attention to her? Oh, it's a loneliness. Like he's had the insight, it's a loneliness, and then he's connected it, and so he's come with the question. You feel lonely.
Yeah, he's like problem
I'd say no.
solving it instead of it happening organically, which is a very like therapist thing to do, I think. And it's also like it's like a neurodivergent thing to do, right? Like figure out what the feelings are instead of like just feeling the feelings.
I think most people can't really navigate their emotional journey on their own, and so he's like, was it loneliness? And she can be like, yes, it was, or like, I was kind of more like this, and then he can help her map a bit better.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. Like what he's doing is great, and I think he is navigating quite well. And it's interesting because he's like, oh, it's loneliness, but then he's like, oh crap, that's not what you actually say to the client. When you think they're lonely, you say, like this is what he's saying is that you think they're alone. Like, or do you feel alone?
You know, he said, do you feel lonely? is different to alone. Anyway,
Let me rephrase. Actually, do you feel alone?
oh,
I
okay.
don't know. I guess it's not really something that I think about because I am like physically not alone because I have like my roommates and stuff.
I actually think he went too deep here.
So what I saw of her is she like squinted her eyes a bit, and so it looked like she evaluated her image for a moment. Like, is it okay for me to say this on the stream, knowing that I'm a famous person? It's a bunch of people watching. So I think you're right that he went to somewhere unsafe, and she went no, and then proceeded to disagree and go other places.
I think she's not conscious of it exactly though.
No, I don't think so. Well, it was a very quick like, oh, I can't say that on stream. Like, I'm not actually got a house.
That's the thing. I don't think that thought appeared in her head. I think you're right. Like that squinting is a good insight. I didn't realize that, but like squinting at her image and then like, cause she's looking at her, he's like, are you alone? And then she's looking at herself. Am I alone? Versus, am I feeling alone right now? And like, those are two different,
right.
Like those are two different yous.
Right. Yeah, she answered the like, well, I'm not actually alone. But he asked, do you feel, well, first he said, do you feel lonely? And then he said, are you alone?
Yeah. And I think because he was thinking he went too deep. He didn't do it, like he didn't go through the levels as needed to activate like the sensory whatever.
And I do have like good friends that I can vent to when need be. So in that aspect, I feel like it's not like I don't really feel alone in that way. Maybe in more complicated ways that I do. For example, like in terms of the things that I have issues with, maybe
that was something there.
Deal with those alone, or that there aren't like people in similar situations.
Yeah, like she's like he hit the thing. Like he found the resonant point, but she's having to walk there herself.
Yeah. So I'm being bothered by something. There's something here. Let me see if I can work it out. I think I'm bothered by the fact that he sees more than he is saying. Like he has got a good perceptual sense. Like she said something like, the things that bother me, right? And before she did, she put her mind on the object of the thing that was bothering her. And then she didn't name it and she called it a thing. And she said the things that are bothering me. And I think that his insight, he could sort of perceive a little bit closer what that thing was and the shape of how it was bothering her before, even though she didn't say it. And now he has to decide not to reveal, or has decided not to reveal that he knows what's bothering her.
He sort of did, like with the alone, right? Like I think
there's another thing that's about to come up, but he's decided not to reveal it. And instead, like there was something interesting in like the thing, right? She pointed to the thing. It was a strong emotional resonance that she didn't like that thing. She used the word thing. And then he has just pretended not to share that he didn't see it and deciding how he's going to dance around it. Because obviously if it's too raw, she'll like flinch. But because there's something where he's holding back or which is hard. I don't know. You got to share again.
Oh.
Maybe sometimes feel like I deal with those alone, or that there aren't like people in similar situations.
Yeah, it can be really confusing when you feel a
Yeah, see, I don't like this because I think his timing got thrown off when she moved. Like, because now he's ahead in the pacing. Like, he knows what's going to happen before it happens, and so he's not able to be with her while it's happening. So yeah, like what you're saying, like he knows more. It's not. So she just said this thing, and then he's like immediately validating it. which is the correct next step. But it's like, you don't want to be validated immediately, right? Like you want it to sink in and then be validated.
Yeah, this is like the dance between hot and cold empathy and
Yeah.
Anyway,
And he
no,
lost the pacing. He lost the pacing, I think.
Certain way that you're not supposed to feel.
Yeah.
And like he says the words like, this is a canned line, right? Like it's probably true here, but it's still like it's a canned line and it comes across like a canned line. But what,
I think especially one of the reasons I was nervous to talk to you today was because I feel like a lot of things I like shouldn't be justified in feeling, because I am also like very privileged and lucky to be in the
man,
position
he looks
that I'm
like he just got hit by a train.
in. That's also why, like, initially many weeks or months ago when we were talking about potentially,
yeah, like that, like he's like he's in a frame he doesn't want to be in.
No, he just like there's some he was just super judgy. I think she missed it, but he looks super judgy, like, oh, okay, here we go. Something like
You think he's judgy?
he was, and then he's not gonna say it because he's
I'm
a
lucky
good
to be
damn
in the
therapist, but
position I'm in, and that's also why, like, initially
That you think that's the judgy? Like that like grimace?
yeah.
I think
I think some of her attitude, like I shouldn't be feeling what I'm feeling, he's judging that a bit.
yeah,
Because, you
he
know,
is. He is. But to be fair, this is also not a good way to like be. Like this story that she's telling about herself is not a good story to live in.
Yeah, I think I have high standards for like acceptance. So if this is where she's at, that she's saying this story, accept it first, and then bring about like, oh, hey, how do you like the story you're in? Are you sure you want to stay here? Like, oh, you want to change? Oh, great, yeah. Let's. Where do you want to go? Let's like. I am allowed to feel whatever I want to feel, but the person sort of needs to self-discover some of that.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing he's missing, because he was doing the thinking instead of doing the feeling.
Thinking, the judging, whatever. It's all right. I'm sure he's very good, and we're going to see him turn it around anyway.
No, he's great. He's great. No, he's great. Like I think this is to me like I rate this like 10 out of 10. Like this guy is amazing, and she is super. Like this stuff is really hard, right? Like we're here hindsight, like after the fact, breaking it down into each little piece. Like they're doing this stuff live. Like that's, you know, like these like this is too much. Like we're too much. We're too like judgy. But it's fun, so we do it.
Yeah.
And it's good fun, and it's healthy, and I think it does feed into his mission, what we're doing. And Dr. K and Pokimane, if you're listening to this and you don't like it, we'll just take us down. Like it's not meant to be negative. If they get offended, I'll just take it down. Or if they get upset or anything, yeah. But yeah, like he does do this thing because he's in the frame. Really, the thing I think what's happening is that what should be salient is that she's saying the story out loud and also online, which is like hugely impressive. I don't think I would do that. And like, but that's not what's hitting him, right? What's hitting him is the story, because he's trying to keep in truth and health and goodness and stuff. And like that like kind of laser focus, I think it's like very indicative of like First Path or something, where like you get that stream entry and then you're like, okay, I have to like keep on it all the time, right? Like you got to keep that like laser awakening like surroundings thing, instead of being able to just like let it go and then don't worry about it, it will show up again later. Like it's consciousness, it's always there. You don't need to actually pay attention to it to like keep it. But it's still good. Like he's navigating this stuff like very well, I think.
Many weeks or months ago when we were talking about potentially
Now he's bored.
doing this sort of thing, I just feel like people don't want to hear someone like me complain, like understandably. So I think that's part of it.
This is a story also, like 100%. Like I have this story, like this is super common today. Where like you're in such a position where you don't like where you feel like you can't complain because it's like it reminds me of like punching down. And so you can't like she's like good looking, she's successful, she's rich, you know, like, and she's young, like she is like, if she's gonna be like, oh, my life's not good because like nobody gets how hard it is to be a super successful streamer, then like people are not gonna react well to that. On the other hand, like it's life, and you know, she does have problems presumably, and those are hard, and she can't actually talk about them. That makes it harder.
It sort of implies that currently doesn't have a therapist.
Sorry?
And maybe she
Sorry, you chopped out there for a
Anyway.
second.
Yeah, it looks like connectivity problems. I suspect she doesn't particularly have a therapist that she can talk to about things, but she's talking as if she doesn't have therapeutic support. Which,
Yeah.
That's just
So like, yeah, but also
because if
she's
she
like,
did, she would be have already.
yeah, but also she is saying this, and like we don't know where she was before, and like what therapeutic support got her to the point where she could do this as well. I don't know. For me, it's like hard to tell because you don't know where. You can usually tell like trajectory, but like this is just a snapshot, so it's hard to know velocity. Right?
Yeah.
I'm going to think about how. So yeah, so I'm going to just say what I said again, which is it can be confusing to feel things that you're not supposed to feel.
Yeah, he's just reverting to his,
right.
his
So
thoughts.
what I'm getting from you is
Which are
the
good
first thing
thoughts.
I'm going to say is
Great.
I'm here, and I'm with you, and at least for a little while, you're not going to be alone, and I'm okay with who you are. And I don't really care that you have privilege. Like I mean, part of the advantage of being a boomer, I mean, I know who you are. I know who you are, but I also don't.
This is not going to land.
I come from worlds. I feel like I'm an alien on Twitch because they're all of these, you know, they're all these things that I don't understand about you guys and Twitch, and like, you know, I identify with pieces of it, but there's a lot of stuff that I don't understand. So the first thing that I want to.
So yeah, so he's doing the reorientation. So he's wanting to orient as like, I'm not in that group. So he's like trying not to get labeled as that identity.
Okay.
Right? Like at least that's what I'm saying. And so he's having to do the reorienting and being like, I'm here for you. And I think if he was more present earlier, then he wouldn't have had to do this, or it would have had more impact, because he would have just been there with her the whole time, and she would have seen that. But also it can get pretty intense if you do that. Where are you at? I know we just promised the first 2 minutes, and now we're already at 10 minutes.
Yeah, dealing with my internet connection issues and trying to keep up with the stream, and you keep going for a bit. Look, he definitely has skillful moves, right? And he's juggling an audience at the same time as her. Like he's having to explain things to the audience and be relatable to everyone and not just the client in this case. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I love this guy. I think he's awesome.
I want to talk to you about is because I think this is the problem, right? Is that you shouldn't be alone, but you are. I like what I'm getting from you is like a sense of like shoulds. Like it's a case of the shoulds. Like you shouldn't feel this way because you're privileged.
I think he's nervous.
But the interesting thing is that like when Buddha, whatever, said that all human beings are entitled to two things, and those things are suffering and death. And that's like really, really interesting.
What do you think of that? That's the first time I've heard that.
I missed it because my internet is terrible.
So is this streaming to YouTube, do you think, or is it?
It is, but it keeps going a little far. Um, hmm. You need to. What I'm going to do? I'm going to hit this button. Yeah, the connection issues are like making this very difficult to comment on. I think there's more here, and I think it's worth digging into more. But right now, it's kind of painful.
Yeah, we can call it here and then come back a different day.
An interesting start. You're right that he could get to. Earlier, you were saying to me that he cut through very quickly to something real, something personal, something human universal. The nature of what she's talking about, what he's trying to point to is like a loneliness, universal suffering, which is kind of impressive that he got there after, I guess it's 6 minutes conversation.
Yeah, no, he's really good.
I actually think that he's better than he lets on, and I would be interested to see him doing even better.
What does that look like to you? I'm curious.
Well, it's funny because if you can pick things out of people, then like if you can intuit something from someone's behavior, then the territory of being really good at doing that is surrounded by a minefield of rudely picking where someone's at, right?
Yeah.
Of like, this is your suffering in this moment, this is the good, and then like, so the more that you intuit, the more of a minefield it is as you get closer to it. Like
yeah, and you have no plausible deniability because you like you don't have, like, if I say something by, like, I'm very impulsive, so I say something by accident, like I kind of have this guard of like, well, I just said it, I didn't, like, it wasn't preconceived. But like,
but
with
if you're
him,
trying to like cut through someone,
yeah, it's all
it can be, yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. So
I'd like to see him get it wrong more, because the path to getting it right more is actually through getting it wrong more. Like when you look at like Darren Brown, some of the stuff that he can do when he sort of intuits stuff from people is a whole bunch of getting it wrong more before it's getting it right more.
yeah, but that's like Darren Brown does like cold reading, right? So he just like throws out a lot of stuff and then sees what they're picking up
right,
on.
but is there a difference between Darren Brown's cold reading and Dr. K here saying, is that loneliness a feeling of alone that's connected to, even though you're famous, you don't feel like you have people to talk to? Isn't that just a cold read?
But it's an accurate one.
But Darren Brown's accurate all the time too.
Huh?
Darren Brown's also accurate all the time too.
Yeah, but he's like
Darren Brown claims to be magical as well.
Okay, so Darren Brown's pretty good, and he might actually be able to do that. But like, let's say cold reading in general is where you throw out a bunch of stuff and see what lands. That's you're making a mess.
Well,
like,
I actually
just leave those litter.
well, there's a type of sort of working with a crowd where you say, and I saw Darren Brown did this once, where he was doing more of the healing sort of thing, and he said someone's tinnitus in the audience will be cured, it's going away. And so he's got 300 people in front of him, and someone says, "Oh, it's me! Oh, my tinnitus!" Wow, and then he like the next few sentences are like, "And you'll find that this will be gone forever; it'll never come back." Like planting that in that mind, and really look for it. Are you sure it's gone? Like, yeah, it's really gone. Like, wow, and so there's a type of cold reading like that. There's a different. I have pulled this person out of the audience. Like, you are exactly this old. You look like you studied this. It looks like your relationship with your mother is like this, which is a different type of cold reading if you can pull those off.
Yeah, that's like crowd work.
But one person is different to crowd work.
Yeah,
Cold reading a single person is way more interesting, way more impressive.
yeah, and I think like in a way I think that's what he's doing, but I think it's skillful, like what he's doing. I think people have a problem with the cold reading when it's unskillful. Like if you're able to talk to someone and like something important is happening and you're able to like go in on that and like talk about that, like that's not really cold reading. That's like having an intimate conversation with someone.
Right. But if you can pull it from the air without them having told you, that's like the impressive part.
Right. So like, I mean, we're 10 minutes in, so she's already put out a ton of stuff. But like I think he's, what are you saying? Maybe I'm not, I don't think I'm getting what you're saying. I think I'm reacting to what you're saying because it feels like you're kind of calling him a charlatan a little bit. And I like him just a little like
calling Dr.K a charlatan or Darren Brown?
Yeah.
No. These are incredible skills. Like I think they both have incredible skill in different ways. But the reading skill, the ability to read people as a skill has an overlapping territory between the two.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think also like Darren Brown kind of sets up, like he contrives the scenarios a bunch where he'll like set up the scenario in such a way so that he knows the outcome. And I think with it's not doing that.
The magician path is very much repeat the magic trick until you get real good at it.
Yeah.
So,
and there's something to that, like that is very entertaining. Like it's definitely like more entertaining, but it feels less real.
Yeah.
Because like it only works in those scenarios, but like this stuff, like I haven't seen any of his other interviews, but I think if he does other interviews, I would with people who are willing to be open and vulnerable like she is, I think that he could reproduce results, right? The content would be different because there's different things going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like that loneliness, like saying you're lonely on TV is like really, that's like hard. And like in like this way, like this genuine.
I mean, to be fair, she was already crying. Like the first thing. I'm surprised if someone were talking to me and burst out crying, I would be like, what a relief, we're already in crying territory. It only gets easier from here.
Yeah.
They're already willing to cry in front of a stranger and in front of, like great. It makes life easier.
Yeah. Yeah, there is something about an atmosphere that changes. We had that Friday. Someone cried. But like it took me like it took us like hours to get there. And like he got there in like 4 minutes. Like that's crazy. Like that's what I'm saying. He's really good at this. And she's really brave to do this as well. But yeah, I also want to talk about, he says like this like a philosophy thing. People are entitled to two things: death and suffering.
That was the line that I didn't quite hear because the stream cut out. People are entitled to death and suffering.
Entitled to two things: death and suffering.
We are definitely enlightened. Suffering. We have to put up with it as it comes.
Sorry, you cut out an MSA said.
We certainly we're entitled to our own suffering, but I don't know if we're entitled to death. Death sort of happens without our choice.
You're entitled to die. No one can take that right away from you.
But choosing when isn't particularly up to you most of the time.
I think
choosing
the time
details of your death.
Yeah, the specifics is not really up to you.
Yeah, and in that sense, like, all right, yes, everyone gets to die eventually, but
and you get to live life with that right. I think that's what he's trying to say to her. Like, she gets to live life with suffering. Nobody's allowed to take that away.
So interestingly, the history and slavery, you were not allowed to commit suicide. They were not allowed to take their own lives because they didn't own their lives. Other people did. Particularly, Catholicism or certain branches of Christianity really are against suicide or against taking your own life because it's not your life. It's to live, yours to end. And that's a philosophy that then forms a whole bunch of stuff. There's also them in 100 years ago, I forget which century, but people were commit suicide to, and this became a problem that made it a lot.
You're cutting out all the time. I think we should stop.
Activity.
I think we're gonna cut it here. I think you guys can still hear me, which is interesting because he's the one that's uploading it. But I don't know how